From Gwinnett Daily Post. Trump raises $39 million in fundraising in wake of guilty verdict 4 hours ago. Knots. The latest update just dropped by Team Trump. The total raised in 24 hours after the Biden sham trial, $52.8 million.
It's a record.
This is a tremendously high record. I mean, what was it before? It was like a 3-day record before was something like comparable to this. This is 24 hours.
I want to say it was like around 50 was the Biden 3-day.
Right, he was bragging about it. Mm-hmm. Over 3 days, we brought in all of this money, and Trump's like, I did it in 24.
Well, no, President Trump also raised about $50 million as well when he had his really big blowout fundraiser in Palm Beach a few weeks ago. But that was over about a week or so. The fundraiser itself took place in an evening near Boca Raton, Florida. But the accumulation of the funds, of course, took place throughout the week. So and this is a record, though. This is a 24-hour record.
And it's small donors, almost entirely small donors. So I personally donated the maximum because I am moved by this. When they announced the guilty verdict, we all knew it was coming.
Yeah.
But man, did I have that sinking feeling like these gloating Democrats on MSNBC and CNN have no idea what they are doing. They are, or they do, and they're intentionally burning the country to the ground. I saw that, and I saw a bunch of these posts on X where people, I love them. A couple guys, I don't know who they are, but they're like some crypto guys. There are some like education guys, some developers. They're not even political. And I see this post from a guy, and he's just like, these people are destroying our country. I can't take it anymore. I don't care about politics, but I'm donating to Trump right now. And I was like, wow, dude.
Yeah, I wish I could see the breakdown of first-time donors. Like, first
30%.
time, it's wild to me. And also where they are, right? Like, it'd be interesting to know if this really pushed people who are in blue-dominated areas. Because I think there were so many people. I think we all knew this was probably the likely outcome, but I think there were moments during this trial, and you have to hand it to Trump's defense, where like when Michael Cohen admits he was stealing from Trump, like there were moments that you were like, this really does seem like something that could win over a jury. And I think that devastation of seeing all 34 counts come in and being like, they're just really out to get him. It's interesting what a motivator it was for people to take action.
Well, it was also really touching to me to see so many people. There were people on Social Security. There were, people on disability reading the comments, because I put out a post and I was like, oh, I have almost 1 million followers. Everybody donate $5 so that we can, raise $5 million for President Trump, because I'm almost at 1 million followers on X. And there were all these people, some of them, elderly people in the comments saying, oh, I don't really have any money, and I have about $10 in my bank account, and I ate tuna fish sandwiches for dinner the last week, but I'm going to give, my last $5 to President Trump. I mean, that's how much people love President Trump. They are literally willing to go without food. They are literally willing to starve themselves for the sake of supporting President Trump. And there's nobody else in this country who's ever been president, nobody else on the ballot, nobody else in the political arena who inspires people that much to the point they're willing to starve themselves.
I think that the as much as there are plenty of people that are Trump fans and that love former President Trump a whole lot, I think really the important thing here is to focus on the fact that this isn't just about Trump. And that's something that Trump himself has said. It's not specifically about Trump. He's just kind of in the way. The fact of the matter is there are people that are in government that don't ascribe to our system of government. They don't believe that you can make a legitimate argument. This is where Jordan Peterson was very, very much ahead of his time when he was pointing out that there is a lot of postmodernism in the way that the left debates now. People that don't believe that you can make legitimate arguments. They believe that the arguments are won by emotion, by convincing people that the feelings that they have are right. You cannot make legal arguments like that. So the result is people that don't try to make legal arguments. All they do is try to use the levers of power in whatever way they can. And you're seeing that in the system right now. You got people that are going to swear up and down that Kyle Rittenhouse should have been put in jail because of the way they feel. And you've got people that'll swear up and down that this is a legitimate trial and that this is the correct outcome because of the way they feel, regardless of the evidence that's presented.
So I've had a lot of people ask, my liberal family members or my friends, they're all laughing, they're cheering. Like, I don't even know what to say to them. And I'm just like, you're not going to go to a person cheering over Trump being convicted and say, you're wrong, Trump's innocent. They're going to laugh and say, haha, cringe, cry more. You simply ask them this. If you've got a family member or friend and they're like, I think it's good that Donald Trump was convicted, say, do you think Donald Trump being convicted will help or hurt the country? No one's going to like, I think it'll help because, Trump committed a crime. It's like, okay, do you think that Trump's supporters, of which there's 75 million of them, do you think they're going to agree with you that the country's being helped? No. So do you think that the country is now completely divided, fit straight down the middle as to whether good or bad is happening? Yes. Okay, so this move made by Democrats, all it did was shatter this country in two extreme directions in a very dangerous way. And they're going to be like, yeah, probably. There's no reality where even a Democrat can accept, would admit that a Trump supporter is going to be like, well, I guess they got Trump. I guess I don't support him anymore.
Look, you see with Joe Manchin actually admitting
as an independent.
He's registering as an independent. It's important that he stop caucusing with the Democrats. That is actually part of leaving. Like, you can't just leave the Democrats party and still caucus with them, because Bernie Sanders isn't a Democrat, but he counts as a Democrat because he caucuses with them.
Same with Angus King, same with Person
You have to leave. You have to caucus with the Republicans first of all. And I don't think that is the last Democrat that's like, yo, I'm out of here. You've got people on CNN that are laying out the arguments for why this was wrong. You've got, I think it was the Intelligencer, I forget who actually puts that up. The Intelligencer is a column. And they were laying out, essentially hedging their bets, this. They were like, this might not be a good thing, because at its core, the misdemeanors were turned into felonies because of a crime that cannot be pointed to, that no one can actually identify. That means that this is all a sham. Mm-hmm. And everyone that looks into it with any kind of honesty can at least see that very simple fact. He was not committed of a federal crime. They were pointing at the federal crime to make it seem, to justify the misdemeanors being treated as felonies. That couldn't happen. All of it's a sham. That is the simplest way to understand.
The only thing that they wanted to do was they wanted to control the semantics going into a general election, and that's why they're all saying convicted felon, convicted felon, convicted felon. I mean, if I had $1 for every single time a liberal shithead said convicted felon in the last 24 hours, I would have
very wealthy.
I would have $52.8 million.
Well, everyone's now calling Biden a pedo. Well, to be fair, they've been calling him that for a while since the pedo Peter thing came out from Hunter Biden.
Right, but that's what the left is now saying on TV. I mean, if you listen to all the different talk shows and you listen to all the different commentators, they're saying convicted felon. It's no longer former President Donald Trump. I hate when they use that term former, because you'll notice they never addressed any president in United States history by former. You get the title president forever. Forever. The only person they ever said former about is Donald Trump. It's disgusting. It's disgraceful. It is so disrespectful. And you listen to them. They say President Barack Obama, President Jimmy Carter. They'll talk about everybody, but the only person they use former for is Trump. Now, notice they don't say former president anymore. It's convicted felon Donald Trump. It's shameful.
We had talked about this when we were setting up the interview with Trump. I've referred to him consistently as Mr. President or President Trump. And I was explaining to people that your title in office is earned and retained. Like, when someone retires from the Senate, they're still senator individual. They're still congressmen. That is the title they have earned. And you're completely right. I was bringing this up last week. They call all of the presidents, President Obama, President Bush, and then Donald Trump is former because he wasn't supposed to win. They're angry they lost, and they can't accept it.
Well, this is also something Tommy Tuberville brought up. He was one of the Republicans who went up and kind of appeared with the press outside of the trial, and he pointed out that in court, they're referring to him as Mr. Trump. They're not referring to him as President Trump, which is technically the correct honorific, right? Like, if any of us were there, it would be Mr., Ms., whatever, but he was the president, so he retains that title. The justice system didn't want to acknowledge that, because I think, again, it would acknowledge to the jury what a tremendously crazy ass the prosecution put in front of them. The prosecution said, hey, here's this guy. We could have brought this trial. We chose not to. Believe this liar and put this guy in prison for whatever felony crime you think happened. We won't specify.
Also, they didn't want anybody knowing either that the judge himself was a donor to Joe Biden. They didn't want anyone knowing that his daughter is literally receiving millions of dollars from Democrats that are raising money off of the indictment of President Trump by Alvin Bragg. You literally had had Congressman Dan Goldman, who is a Democrat from the state of New York. This is a story I exclusively broke on Loomer.com. And he went on MSDNC and was like, oh, yeah, I'm, close with Michael Cohen. And I actually briefed Michael Cohen before his testimony in the Trump trial. And I think that he just got so carried away because they're so brazen that he didn't realize what he said in the moment. And then people were like, wait a second, you briefed Michael Cohen? Since when does a member of Congress, I mean, talk about felons, right? Why is a member of Congress, one, hanging out with a felon, and two, briefing him? And then we find out that Dan Goldman is literally a paying client of Lauren Mershon. Wow. And then I was looking at the Schedule B FEC forms and found out that the address where Dan Goldman is sending the payments for Authentic Campaigns, which is the company that Lauren Mershon, the daughter of Judge Mershon, is the president of, is literally the personal home residence of Lauren Mershon in Virginia.
It's wild.
So let that sink in. So instead of sending the payments to the headquarter office, which is in Chicago, which is where the Biden campaign sends their checks when they pay Authentic Campaigns, New York congressional Democrats, including Dan Goldman, Congresswoman Mickey Sherrill from New York, the woman who spoke out on Twitter and told Donald Trump that he wasn't welcome in New Jersey when he had his massive Wildwood rally, and Hakeem Jeffries, the House Minority Leader. He literally has sent $1.5 million, Tim,
to her
house, her direct house, and she lives in Richmond, Virginia, with her husband, Taylor Harper, who happens to be an employee at the United States Census Bureau in Joe Biden's administration.
So what do you think would it take for the public to sort of grasp the reality of this? Because I feel like all of this stuff, if you're conservative and you're on the ball, you know it. Yeah. If you're a regular, maybe Republican, you're not following the news as closely, but you might have heard about it. There's the whole class of just like independents who don't realize how messily interwoven all of this is.
Well, the media doesn't want to report it. I mean, I broke these stories, and you have even congressional Republicans that I don't know what their hang-up is. They don't even want to say my name, and so they steal my reports. I mean,
well, they can't find you on Google, apparently.
No, but I literally have text messages with these congressional Republicans and senators and their staffers that are like, oh, we saw your report and everything. And then I see that member of Congress or that senator whose staffer was texting me the day before outside the courthouse talking about my reports, but they don't even grasp the entirety of it, right? So while I appreciate them mentioning it, they just do such a shitty job relaying the information because it's so much more salacious and damning than what they say in their quick little soundbite when they're auditioning for VP next to Donald Trump outside the courthouse, right? So they need to actually subpoena Lauren Mershon. James Comer needs to find his balls, and he needs to stop obstructing the subpoena efforts for Lauren Mershon. And that's a story I broke today as well. You have James Comer that is actually blocking requests by other Republicans who want to subpoena Lauren Mershon. I'm sick and tired of people like Jim Jordan today pushing out stupid letters, saying, oh, Alvin Bragg and Michael Colangelo, we need you to come and testify and talk about why you're weaponizing government. Well, they're weaponizing government, you stupid douchebag Republicans, because you guys control the purse strings and you haven't cut off funding for the DOJ. You haven't cut off funding for these lawfare agencies. And like I said, you need to find your balls and you need to send a subpoena. Like, when are they going to understand this?
Thanks for watching this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to check out the live show Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. on this channel. Subscribe and we'll see you all there.